Free stuff becomes expensive stuff, poop candy's discontinued, and space sporks are no more. So what things did Disney have to stop doing in the past? Find out today here on DFB Guide. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. So Disney isn't just a company that expands, it's also a company that prunes certain experiences or offerings to make way for something new or just to eradicate something that majorly flopped for them. So today we're going to be looking into several different things Disney had to put an end to, whether by choice or by default, and how we can brace ourselves for these changes, recent or not. First up, of course, is free Fastpass. You knew I had to start with a big one, right? Back in 1999, Disney introduced us to the wonderful world of Fastpass, a free, skip-the-line, timed ticket system for rides and attractions. You'd just insert your park ticket at a kiosk outside the ride you wanted a Fastpass for, and a physical return time would spit out at you, telling you when you could come back to the attraction to use the much shorter line option. I still have some of my physical Fastpasses as collector's items, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them, but it seems a shame to let them go now. By December 2013, Disney introduced Fastpass Plus. Now, this was a similar service to the regular Fastpass. But instead of physical kiosks and cards, you could book up to 3 Fastpasses for each park day ahead of your trip via the Disney World website. And then after you use those up, you could add more Fastpasses during the day, if any were left for you to snag. Oh, and did I mention it was still free? 'Cause it was, and we took it for granted. In 2019, Disney announced the Disney Genie service during the D23 Expo, and it sounded just fine and dandy and not overly complicated at the time. Originally, we were all told it'd be an addition to the My Disney Experience app, true, and that it helped guests create customized itineraries as well as provide real-time tips, also kind of true. What we didn't realize was that Disney Genie would wind up replacing Fastpass Plus entirely with a new paid Genie Plus service, which is what we have today. So why did Disney World stop using free Fastpasses? Technically, Disney had been experimenting with the idea of a paid Fastpass service for a while before Disney Genie Plus rolled out. If you look back in 2017, you'll see Disneyland and Disney California Adventure were already using a premium Max Pass system that was basically the trailblazer for the paid Fastpass concepts we'd come to know today. And while the 2020 closures weren't exactly great for Disney's revenue, it did allow Disney to quietly shift the guest experience upon park reopening. First, Fastpass Plus was discontinued across the board and only standby lines were available. Then in 2021, Disneyland Paris was the next to initiate a paid Fastpass service, which is when we started wondering if Orlando's parks would start to do the same. And wouldn't you know, in October 2021, Disney World rolled out the new Genie Plus and individual attraction selections, which meant we'd have to rely on paid line-skipping privileges from here on out, if we wanted them at all. While Disney did state that the addition of Disney Genie Plus was to improve guests' park experience, there's no hiding that this premium service was and still is raking in the big bucks for the company. During the first earnings call of this year, Disney noted that the domestic parks made over $6 billion in revenue and over $2 billion in income, which were huge increases thanks to the Genie Plus service, as well as higher guest spending in general. So whether you're a Genie Plus fan or not, it doesn't look like this service is going away anytime soon. That being said, Disney is continuing to work on Genie Plus to make it easier for guests to use, which is great because it really is not at all. And in fact, when 2024 rolls around, Disney has teased making it so that we can book lightning lanes ahead of our trips again, instead of having to book all of them one at a time throughout each park day like we have to now. We're not sure when this update's going to go live or what exactly it's going to look like when it does go live, but we'll keep you updated once we learn more. In the meantime, you can download our free guide to all things Disney Genie by scanning the QR code you see on the screen now, or by heading to disneyfoodblog.com/DisneyGeniePlus after we wrap up here. So who would have thought that a weird-looking spork would stir up so much controversy? When Docking Bay 7 opened back in 2019, along with the rest of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, you could eat your quick service meal with a spork, but not just any kind of spork, a metal spacey spork, which was honestly like a normal spork, but more lopsided. And fans and guests alike were a little too thrilled with these Batu-based utensils. So thrilled, in fact, that Disney started noticing their metal spork supply was mysteriously dwindling. So Disney stopped handing out the utensils and instead decided to take a page out of Hondo Ohnaka's book and start making a profit from them. The sporks returned to Docking Bay 7, but this time at a price. Guests could purchase these sporks for $10.99 each. And if you think that's steep for just one spork, well, it is. But at least this one came with its own little Batu travel bag. Currently, the Sporks are no longer available for purchase, but that doesn't mean Disney won't bring them back again for future travelers. In the meantime, you can still purchase other Batu-themed merch at the nearby Galaxy's Edge gift shops, like Doc Gondar's Den of Antiquities and the Black Spire Outpost Market. But yes, my friends, the moral of the story is this is why we can't have nice things. Stop stealing the Sporks. Disney didn't want to stop doing this, but they were forced to after a rather scary situation happened in Disneyland just this year. On April 22nd, there was an incident during Disneyland's Fantasmic performance. The fire-breathing Maleficent dragon unexpectedly caught on fire, causing the show to end abruptly. Fortunately, no one was hurt and the fire department was able to quickly respond to the scene, but now, as Disney goes forward with trying to get Fantasmic back up and running again, it's opening on May 24th, they're having to rework things to make sure history doesn't repeat itself. And this isn't the only time Maleficent has had a quite literal meltdown in the past. The steampunk version of the dragon, used during Magic Kingdom's Festival of Fantasy Parade, also managed to catch fire back in 2018, though these were two entirely separate situations, just with the same fire-breathing dragon. For a while there, after the Fantasmic incident took place, all Maleficent fire-breathing effects across all the parks were temporarily suspended while Disney checked things over. The fire-breathing effects did return to the Maleficent over in Disney World for both the Festival of Fantasy Parade and the Fantasmic version over at Hollywood Studios, and when Fantasmic returns to Disneyland in 2024, it will be using new effects to make sure no accidental fires have the chance to start up again. The restaurants I used to enjoy have now become the restaurants I could take or leave, and that's all thanks to the missing Toppings bars that have left a Toppings bar-shaped hole in our hearts. So quick services like Pecos Bill, Tall Tale Inn and Cafe in Magic Kingdom, Restaurantosaurus in Animal Kingdom, Cosmic Rays even, used to have these salad bar-like stations full of fresh add-ons to help jazz up your basic theme park burgers and tacos and hot dogs, you name it. And I'm not just talking about basic condiments like ketchup and mustard here. I'm talking things like peppers and pickles, salsa, sauteed mushrooms, sauteed onions, shredded cheese, lettuce, sliced tomatoes, guacamole, even plastic cheese was available there, self-serve. Alas, 2020 happened, so you can probably fill in the blanks as to what happened next. When these restaurants reopened post-closure, the Toppings bars didn't return with them, and I've been a sad AJ ever since. That being said, you can request toppings at quick services like Pecos Bills when you place your order via inline or through mobile order, but still not the same level of customization that we once had. Still, if you're looking to level up your nachos and rice bowls with things like lettuce and sour cream, salsa, or even queso dip for $1 extra, you can still make that happen. For the past few years, the way guests have been able to ride the newest Disney rides is now completely different from what it once was, even just 5 years ago. Back in the day, if a new ride or experience opened inside the parks, you'd treat it like any other ride. You get in a physical line for it. But because demand for these new rides has gotten so incredibly, demanding, Disney had to find a way to keep guests from using up their entire park day just to wait for one new ride. And I'm not exaggerating here. Back when Toy Story Land first opened in Hollywood Studios in 2018, the line for Slinky Dog Dash wrapped all the way around the new area, snaked past Animation Courtyard, and wound up over in front of the Grauman's Chinese Theater building in the center of the park, which led to many guests having to wait around 5 hours just to ride this new junior coaster. 5! And I can remember when Frozen Ever After opened, and it was like a 3 or 4 hour wait, and they had to go around and pass out Mickey bars in the line so people didn't start fainting. Now, Disney knew that when the revolutionary Star Wars Rise of the Resistance attraction opened at both Disneyland and Disney World in 2019, the demand would be through the roof. I can remember actually writing posts saying, are people just going to be camping like on the highways around Disney World to get into this ride? So they created a free virtual queue system that's still being used for new rides to this very day. This virtual queue system allows guests to pick up a boarding group number via the My Disney Experience app so that they can wait for the newest rides virtually instead of through a 5+ hour physical line, meaning they can actually still enjoy the rest of the park. Unfortunately, this system isn't foolproof. Virtual queues open up for all guests twice each day, once at 7 a.m., once at 1 p.m., but when these virtual queues go live, they can book up within seconds for the newest rides. So if you're not already logged onto your My Disney Experience app and ready to snag them right when they go live, you could miss out on your opportunity to ride the newest attraction altogether, even if you're just 30 seconds late to the game. Now, we have a full post on the DFB website for tips and tricks that'll help you secure your spot in these virtual queues, which I'm going to link down in the description for you. But if you do you end up missing your opportunity to get them, you still have the option to purchase an individual Lightning Lane instead, which is a flux price per person per single ride-through. Individual Lightning Lanes open at 7 a.m. daily for all Disney World Resort guests for now, but if you're staying off property, individual Lightning Lanes won't be available for you to buy until the park officially opens, which will usually be 2 hours later. The newer the ride, the quicker those individual Lightning Lanes sell out, so if you want to make sure you have them as a solid safety net option, just in case you're not able to enter the virtual queue before it books up, then you'll probably want to look into booking one of Disney's value, moderate, or deluxe resorts for your upcoming vacation. Next up, plastic straws. Okay, Edna Mode from The Incredibles might have said no to capes, but Disney is saying no to plastic. Back in 2019, Disney committed to reducing single-use plastics around Disney destinations worldwide, which would eliminate 175 million plastic straws and 13 million plastic coffee stirrers from being thrown away annually to help reduce the park's environmental footprint. And Disney's definitely stayed true to that commitment. Nowadays, most Disney restaurants will offer you either a paper straw or a sugarcane straw as an alternative option, and more often than not, a plastic lid for your sodas won't be available to pick up either. Out of all the Disney parks, Disney's Animal Kingdom cracks down on this no plastic rule the most, since the plastic straws and lids pose a threat to the wildlife living there. So, to prevent the plastic from accidentally landing in an animal enclosure, all plastic straws have been pretty much 100% banned forever, even if you bring them from home. If you're caught with one, you'll be asked to dispose of it ASAP. Now, if you're not a big fan of paper straws, because let's be real here, they turn to mush after just a few sips of whatever you're drinking, you can always opt to bring your own reusable straws into the park, and Animal Kingdom is absolutely cool with that. You can find a ton of different Disney designs of reusable straws online, and they usually come with a thin brush you can use in your resort or between drinks to help keep them squeaky clean. And this is one of my favorites to talk about. It is the poop candy. What? Does poop candy not sound appetizing to you? Because that's exactly what Disney's Animal Kingdom used to sell at Zuri's Sweet Shop when it first opened. Now, for a short time there, you could purchase Match the Species poop candy, which included choices such as elephant, giraffe, cotton-top tamarin, and hippo poop to sample. It might have looked gross, but hey, it was educational, and it was delicious. Turns out, surprise, a lot of people couldn't stomach the scat in the bakery display case, even though you could ask to see the ingredients list for these treats. It was still pretty difficult to get past the visuals. Thus, Disney had to discontinue this quirky little snack series basically almost as soon as they started it. And we haven't seen it return since, though wouldn't it be fun if it came back for at least April Fools or something? That'd be great. For many years, Disney World Resort guests have had the opportunity to use Disney's Magical Express for free to travel to and from the Orlando International Airport between the Disney resorts. Remember that? But on January 1st, 2022, Disney discontinued its Magical Express offering, and all was sad and dreary. But what happened? Why cancel a complimentary transportation service for hotel guests who are already paying a lot of money to stay at a Disney hotel in the first place? While Disney never quite had a clear-cut answer to share, there are a few factors we can look at that could lead to this outcome. First, there's the revenue and labor situation that Disney faced immediately after the 2020 closures. As we saw with many other Disney World perks at the time that went from free to becoming a paid experience, like Fastpass and Genie Plus, the dissolution of the Magical Express was another way for Disney Company to save some money and buffer its revenue losses. Second, the Brightline train was still a very real possibility back in 2020 and 2021. The Brightline train's original plans would have connected the Disney World property to not just the MCO airport, but to other destinations around Florida. However, the route details got much more complicated with residential areas and Universal Orlando negotiations, which ultimately led to the demise of the Disney World train stop altogether. Finally, we gotta talk about what actually replaced the Magical Express, which were two premium shuttle services called Mears Connect and Sunshine Flyer. Now, Mears was the company that was contracted to drive Magical Express anyway. Sunshine Flyer was a new player on the field. So these two services eventually combined into one mega service that's now called Mears Connect, driven by Sunshine, which is a lot of words. Mears Connect provides a similar charter bus experience from the airport to your Disney resort, and by similar we mean exactly the same, except now it costs money. But one other small difference is that it doesn't exclusively serve Disney World resorts. These shuttles can also provide service for other select hotel guests. But the downside, again, gotta pay for it. To reserve your seat on the Mears Connect, you'll just need to head to the Mears Connect website, where you'll find several different airport transportation options, including charter buses. For a more expedited trip from the airport to Disney World, you can also reserve a car service, a rideshare, or even a taxi, or of course you can rent a car. These will provide you with more direct experiences without multiple stops along route, but it may be a more expensive option after crunching the numbers. Just depends on what you want to do to make the bookends of your trip easier on ya. It might feel like a fairy tale scenario being able to walk the Disney parks while munching on a basket of McDonald's fries, but back in the day, we did it. Turns out various McDonald's items used to be available at several Disney World fast food locations back in the day. Refreshment Port over at Epcot used to serve McDonald's chicken nugs and McFlurries. Magic Kingdom's former quick service, the Village Fry Shop in Fantasyland, served McDonald's fries before it became the Friar's Nook quick service we know and love today. I also remember them being over at Golden Oak Outpost in Frontierland. McDonald's basically fully sponsored Dinoland USA there for a while, and several of those fast food locations sold Mickey D's chicken nuggets, fries, burgers. I remember Restaurantosaurus was a straight up McDonald's for a little while there. And I can fondly remember all the other fry locations in all the parks. Even downtown Disney, which is now Disney Springs, had a full-on McDonald's storefront. So where did all the McDonald's go? The McDonald's/Disney partnership ended after their 10-year contract expired. Instead, McDonald's decided to sign on with DreamWorks, and the presence of Mickey D's in Disney World turned into merely a memory by 2008. Now, don't be shedding tears over the loss of this fried golden fast food goodness yet, because you can still technically order McDonald's inside the Disney bubble. There's an entire McDonald's located at the intersection of Osceola Parkway and West Buena Vista Drive, which is fairly close to Disney's All-Star Resorts and Animal Kingdom Lodge. And Disney does a great job with their very own fry options, too. Our favorite places to order some tasty and even loaded fries inside the parks are over at the Refreshment Port in Epcot. They've got those seasonal poutines during the Epcot festivals. Flame Tree Barbecue at Animal Kingdom with my absolute favorite pulled pork cheese fries. Back again, my friends. Regal Eagle Smokehouse, also at Epcot, which has loaded burnt end fries that gives my pulled pork Flame Tree fries a run for their money, depending on the day. Mr. Kamal's Kiosk at Animal Kingdom as well. They've got their seasoned fries and sriracha mayo dipping sauce. Now, how about not selling alcohol at Magic Kingdom and Disneyland? Not all of Walt Disney's original requests have stood the test of time. When Walt Disney opened Disneyland back in 1955, he made it very clear about how he felt towards alcohol being sold to the public in his parks. He didn't want that rowdy element, quote unquote, coming into his family-friendly destination, and felt it wasn't necessary to sell booze to adults in order for them to still have a good time there. When Roy, Walt's brother, established Magic Kingdom in 1971, he continued to uphold his brother's original beliefs. In this case, no booze would be sold in the Magic Kingdom either. In 1982, when Epcot first opened, it was the rebellious younger sibling park that first kicked the no booze rule to the curb. But not because it was being malicious or anything. The addition of alcohol was to help keep things as authentic around the World Showcase as possible, since certain drinks are a key component to many of the different cultures represented around the park. When Hollywood Studios, Disney California Adventure, and Animal Kingdom came into the picture later on, they followed Epcot's suit and sold alcoholic beverages at several locations. However, Disneyland and Magic Kingdom continued to stay dry. That is, until the new Fantasyland expansion took place in Magic Kingdom in 2012. I remember this well. I remember this announcement that they were going to start selling alcohol in the Magic Kingdom. Oh my goodness, it was an absolute bombshell. So the Fantasyland expansion introduced Be Our Guest restaurant to the park, and that became the very first dining location to offer a small selection of beers and wines, just beers and wines, on its menu. Since then, alcohol has popped up on other restaurant menus inside Magic Kingdom as well, but only the table service locations. Disneyland held out on not serving alcohol until Galaxy's Edge finally opened in 2019. After all, Galaxy's Edge introduced a new interactive spaceport bar, Oga's Cantina, and the no alcohol allowed rule just didn't make sense with this intergalactic edition. The change was met with mixed reactions from guests, but Disney was able to introduce alcoholic drinks into the parks very subtly, so it was never a key component to your visit. For example, you still can't purchase alcohol at any counter service or kiosk location inside Magic Kingdom or Disneyland like you can in the other theme parks. The only places to get alcohol in Magic Kingdom are at the sit-down restaurants, as well as the Happily Ever After dessert party. Meanwhile, over in Disneyland, Oga's Cantina, as well as Blue Bayou, have been the sole places for guests to grab a beer, wine, or cocktail alongside their meal. However, on September 12, 2023, adult beverages were introduced to even more table service restaurants, including Carnation Cafe, Riverbell Terrace, and Cafe Orleans. Ooh, this one is pretty recent. We're back to the post-2020 closure times, and it won't be the last time we return here either because Disney had to change a lot of things after COVID turned the world upside down. Between 2020 and 2022, Disney was constantly updating its health and safety protocols to keep guests and cast members safe while in the midst of those unprecedented times. Now, we're not going to linger here long because it really does all feel like a fever dream, but let's take a quick stroll down memory lane to get a taste for what the parks were like just a few short years ago. Before heading into the parks, you had to pass a temperature check prior to security to make sure you weren't running a fever, because if you were, you'd be turned away before you even made it up to the front gate, and your whole family had to go with you. Social distancing markers were on the ground everywhere, designating where guests should stand to make sure they kept 6 feet apart from other guests at all times. Disney was enforcing face masks in the park even while you walked around outside. The only time you didn't have to wear one was when you were actively eating and drinking, though Disney did have to update that rule too to make sure guests weren't trying to nosh on a corn dog while walking down Main Street USA for like an hour. And when dining locations began reopening, guests were encouraged to use the mobile order system, while table service restaurants also took advantage of the mobile check-in system, which allowed you to bypass the host check-in at participating table service restaurants that you already had an advanced dining reservation for. Rides changed a lot too, since enhanced cleaning and sanitation protocols were being enforced, and that meant cast members would have to stop rides every 2 hours to fully clean and sanitize all of the ride vehicles between guests. Plexiglass barriers were erected pretty much everywhere, on rides, around queues, separating cast members who worked behind the desks of gift shops and guest services and restaurants. This is also when Park Pass reservations were first introduced. Instead of being able to freely visit any theme park you had a ticket for, folks now had to make a reservation for which one they wanted to visit. This was Disney's way of controlling how many guests were in the parks at one time, though it's been a part of the Disney scene ever since. However, Park Pass reservations are finally going away for most guests starting January 9th next year, so it won't be much longer that you'll have to worry about making those Park Pass reservations for your future visits, unless you're an annual pass holder, a cast member, or you hold another non-date-based ticket. And that's just the beginning, y'all. I can remember that year was just unbelievable in Disney World, and the parks were definitely a shell of their former selves when they first reopened after the closures. There were no parades, no fireworks, no character meet and greets. Even now, Disney's still feeling the impact of those COVID closures since not everything has gone back to normal. This is especially true over at the Disney World hotels, where we're still missing things like room service and package delivery, and certain restaurants aren't open yet. But the parks have come a long way since 2020. While not everything's the same as it was before the closures happened, we no longer have to worry about things like plexiglass walls, social distancing markers, and temperature checks with every visit. Now, this is one we are all grateful for. You're probably happy about it too. Years ago, overnight self-parking across the Disney World hotels was free for hotel guests, but things changed in 2020 and overnight parking fees were introduced to the scene for those staying at Disney World hotels, as requested by nobody. The cost varied depending on where you were staying, but typically ranged between $15 and $25 per night per car, which added up real quick. But lo, this story has a happy ending. Starting January 10th of this year, Disney World reintroduced free resort parking for its hotel guests. According to Disney, this change was made in the hopes of making your vacation a little easier and more affordable, quote unquote. Now, affordable is still probably a stretch there, but we appreciate the dropped parking fees. If you're a Disney Resort guest, you also won't have to worry about paying for parking at the theme parks. However, if you're staying off property during your Orlando vacation and plan on driving into the parks each day, you'll still need to pay $30 per day to park at the theme parks. It's also important to remember that only Disney Resort guests are allowed to park at the hotel where they're staying. The only way you're able to drive over and park at a Disney World hotel as a non-resort guest is by having an advanced dining reservation for one of the resort restaurants. Then even then, you still might find yourself having to park way out in the boonies of the hotel's parking lot. Anyone out there remember the days when you could see our bow-wielding red-headed princess riding her trusty steed around the streets of Magic Kingdom? Or how about when Gaston used to show off his equestrian side during select cavalcades? Horse-riding characters started popping up more frequently a few years back when character meet and greets still hadn't returned and character sightings were more of a thing. And it was really cool to see. However, during one of the cavalcade performances, a runaway Mickey balloon accidentally wrapped itself around the leg of the horse that Merida had been riding and spooked him. Fortunately, Merida was able to safely jump down from the horse, and the cast member attendants were able to calm the horse down before things got too scary, but ever since then, characters riding horses really isn't a thing in the parks anymore. The only exception to this is the Headless Horseman during Halloween time, who appears at the start of the parades for Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party at Magic Kingdom and Oogie Boogie Bash at Disney California Adventure. It's always sad to see the free stuff turned unfree, but it happens in Disney World a lot. Back in the day, Disney World hotel guests would receive a complimentary solid-colored magic band before their trip kicked off. Remember when you get that little magic mail and you get that box of magic bands and you're, so much fun. However, Disney discontinued the free magic bands in January 2021. Did this hurt our feelings? Yes. Did Disney have a reason for doing this? Also yes, but we're still gonna pout about it. Since the My Disney Experience app was and still is getting more and more advanced, the same basic functionality can now be found on the free app. You can scan into your Disney hotel room or a park or a restaurant just by using your smartphone. And I guess that does cut down on a lot of the waste of all those magic bands. But regardless, that doesn't mean we don't miss the free little magic band surprise that show up in the mail right before our trips. You can still purchase magic bands or use the ones you bought during past trips to use during your upcoming Disney vacation too. But if you don't want to spend $30+ per person on this accessory, then again, the My Disney Experience app does the same stuff and it won't cost you a dime. Staying in Magic Kingdom and Disneyland for a full 24 hours from sun up till sundown till sun up again, what's the worst that could happen, right? Well, for a while there, Disney used to host 24-hour Disney days on both the East and the West Coast for special events. This would kick off the summer season, starting up at around 6 a.m. and then not end until 6 a.m. the next day, meaning you could be riding around on It's a Small World at 2 a.m. or munching on a funnel cake right before sunrise. This was a really fun but really surreal experience all the same, because if you thought you were tired after just being in the parks from rope drop till close, imagine being in them without getting a wink of sleep. You're just there all night, and no one's kicking you out. This led to some really wild middle-of-the-night happenstances. Some guests would hop on the People Mover and take a nap. PhotoPass photographers would get sleeping shots of guests who accidentally passed out on park benches or leaned up against walls. And quick service locations would start up breakfast around 4 a.m. Because why wouldn't you want to chomp on bacon while listening to Sunny Eclipse serenade you in the middle of cosmic rays at 4 o'clock in the morning? That doesn't sound like a problem at all. As weird and exhausting as these events were, they were a lot of fun, but Disney held their last 24-hour party in 2015. Nowadays, if you want to stay in any of the parks past their normal park hours, you've got one of two ways to make that happen. First, there's extended evening hours in Disney World only, available to deluxe resort guests on certain evenings at select parks. Extended evening hours is going to give you the chance to stay in the parks up to 2 hours after closing time to hit up more rides with really short waits. And then there's the after hours / after dark events / holiday parties thrown throughout the year that'll let you stay in the parks 3 to 4 hours after they close to the public, but will cost you a separate ticket price per person to experience. Now, if you know me, then you know my affinity for peanut buttery treats. I can't get enough of the stuff. I love peanut butter, I always have, but not everyone feels the same way I do, and respectfully so, since it can be a big allergy concern for many folks out there. In 2013, the Ghirardelli Ice Cream Company started working on peanut-free desserts to become more allergy-friendly for guests. At first, this didn't impact already existing sundaes in the Ghirardelli shop. But after a couple of years, sundaes like the Gold Rush, which once had all that marvelous melty peanut butter swirled in with vanilla ice cream and hot fudge, became obsolete. Okay, only sort of obsolete. You can still get a version of the Gold Rush now, but instead of that drizzly peanut butter, you're going to get thick globs of rich and gooey caramel, which is still pretty delicious. If you're a PB fan, you can still get peanut butter drizzled ice cream over at Disney shops like Beaches and Cream inside Beach Club Resort. But if peanut butter is a big allergy concern for you, then Ghirardelli in Disney Springs or Disney California Adventure can be your safe haven. Want to learn about more of our favorite snacks and snack locations around the Disney World scene? We got a treasure trove of them inside our DFB snack guides, which you can find now over on dfbstore.com. Just be sure to type in code YouTube before you purchase anything to save some extra money on any and all ebooks that you want to download and make into your digital park companion. So believe it or not, way back when, Disney actually had its own official airline. In 1971, the same year that Magic Kingdom opened, Disney partnered with Eastern Airlines so that it'd be the official airline for Disney World Resort. And in those early years, before the internet was a thing, Eastern Airlines was super successful. So successful, in fact, that Disney had them sponsor a Magic Kingdom ride called If You Had Wings. This was an Omnimover dark ride, which was basically one big commercial for the airline, but with a catchy tune. This ride used to be located where Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger spin currently resides. However, as more and more airlines started adding direct and cheaper flights into the Orlando area, and with other financial disputes going on in the background of Eastern Airlines, the company eventually folded in 1991. Today, finding a flight to Orlando, especially Orlando International, is pretty easy. It's just finding the affordable flights that gets tricky. Fortunately, we update our DFB website weekly, sometimes even daily, with new airline deals and discounts and savings opportunities that we come across. It's also not a bad idea to download flight apps like Hopper and Skyscanner to help you track down cheap flights for your next big trip. Okay, this next one is another pretty fresh wound. Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser was a 2-day, 2-night, all-inclusive, totally immersive, part murder mystery dinner theater, part escape room, part cruise, part choose-your-own-adventure game, all set within the Star Wars universe. It was the Star Wars Hotel. But even though Galactic Star Cruiser just opened up in March 2022, it took its final voyage this past September. A big reason that led to this closure was pricing alone. A voyage aboard the Star Cruiser would set families back around $5,000 per room. To put things in perspective for you, if I want to book a 3-night cruise to the Bahamas on the Disney Wish with a room that has an added veranda, I'm looking at paying about $3,500 to $4,000, and that includes all my food. Literally $1,000 less than what the Galactic Star Cruiser was for a 2-day trip that did not take you to the Bahamas. Now, the experience was a very niche one, since the main audience for Galactic Star Cruiser were the major Star Wars fans, or the Disney fans who just wanted to try something new and had $5,000 burning a hole in their pocket. Even if you're a casual Star Wars fan just going to visit Galaxy's Edge and Hollywood Studios, you still have other parts of the park you can visit as well: Toy Story Land, Echo Lake, Sunset Boulevard, etc. But when you were in Galactic Star Cruiser, you were in it. Like, sure, you could leave if you had to, but that really wouldn't make sense after spending all that money on it in the first place. After all, Galactic Star Cruiser was 100% an experiment that didn't work out exactly as planned, but Disney tried something huge and they learned from it. Now they know the shortcomings, the troubles, and potentially how to make something like this again in the future on a more sustainable level that hopefully reaches larger audiences without draining everyone's bank accounts. The same year that Disney banned stroller wagons and plastic straws was also the year they banned smoking inside the parks. While designated smoking areas still exist around Disney World property, you're going to have to step outside the park gates to find them, much like you can find a designated smoking area by Hollywood Studios outside the gates on the right-hand side before you enter, or how you can find a smoking area for Epcot not too far away from the main entrance east restrooms. To find a full list of designated smoking areas for the parks and hotels, you can ask a cast member to help you track them down, or you can check out the map on your My Disney Experience app and tap on the down arrow next to the wait times tab. There you're going to find a whole list of different options that you can search for specifically on the map. To find the designated smoking areas, select the guest services option, which will pull up several different areas around the park, including ATMs, service animal relief areas, locker rentals, and smoking areas. Disney may not have everything it used to have, but that doesn't mean it's lacking in the entertainment department by any means, so be sure to check back here with us as we continue to fill you in on the latest Disney 411. And don't forget to grab our free Disney Genie digital guide over at disneyfoodblog.com/DisneyGenie+. Thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for watching. This has been a really fun one to reminisce during. As always, this is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.